Hey everyone, Guild Leader here. Just wanted to cover a couple of different things about the wipe that's coming up, what our plans are, and the things that we've learned from the previous wipe. So first off, we're going to talk about the named arena, and just arena in general, right? So we use that as basically a testing ground. Went in there with some of our absolute impeccable gear, and we're able to test a lot of different builds that we've tried out for Rogue, and we've changed some of our conceptions about how we feel about the class. So let me cover that real quick. Namely, headshot protection isn't really very important. It will spare you from PvE, so if you're a new Rogue, it might be better to run something like the Rogue Cow or the Shadow Hood in your normal games, just so you can get a little bit more damage or be a little bit faster while protecting your head from skeleton crossfire. But overall, for fighting other players, headshot protection is relatively unimportant, just because if you get hit by Wizard Fireball, a couple of zaps, a few arrows, a crossbow, you're pretty much going to be pushed off the fight anyway. So what this means is that priority for stats have changed to some degree, or at least for what I'm going to be building. So movement speed is always key in your solo and duo games. You want to always keep it high even in trios unless you're building the tank rogue. So overall, movement speed, then attack speed, then HP, then physical damage bonus are benchmarks for those particular stats. Movement speed as high as humanly possible. 330 or even higher is better, but if you're above 325, that's a pretty sweet spot to be. That's sort of a minimum. Mainly because we want to be running creep in solos so that we can have the advantage on the fight and always get the drop on our opponents or be able to get away or loot safely. Being able to move around unaccosted is pretty good because most people, when they see a rogue, typically will try to chase you down. If they know where you're at, you're an easy target. Typically, other classes have a lot better ranged options than us. People do typically hunt rogues down, mostly because we got to come in the dungeon correct. We got to come in with decent gear, so you're kind of a bit of a pinata out down there. So for movement, you want it to be that high. For attack speed, I've been playing around 35% or higher. 35 to 45% I'd say is a pretty sweet spot. Higher if you're using a Rondell or a Chris. You want to be on the higher side of that. If you're on the lower side of that, use a Stiletto Dagger. HP, 130 is pretty much a good minimum for HR. Up to 150, 160, those are all pretty good. To get higher than that is going to require you to have a full HP kit, in which case you do want to wear head protection. You want to be as tanky as possible if you're running a full HP kit, because that's going to make your HP last. Physical damage bonus, we're running somewhere above 15%. That typically just seems to be enough to deal with the PvE elements of the game and to deal enough damage. You're killing fighters in 6 stabs. You're killing barbarians in maybe 6 or 7. And everybody else is going to be beneath that, so you throw in a couple ranged hits on top of that, and they'll be going down like paper. If you're running weak point, you're looking at 4 or 5 stabs. But the build that we use the most in the arena, and I would imagine that this would translate pretty well to trios, is Cutthroat, Hide Mastery, Dagger Mastery, Thrust, or Poison Weapon. Probably take Poison Weapon in the dungeon, Thrust for arenas, and then 10-step Stealth. You could probably swap out Hide Mastery for a double jump if you feel comfortable with using that ability. We got a lot of practice with it in Arena. I definitely feel pretty good about it. However, Hide Mastery, just being able to be in Viz more and longer, really helps you close the gap, change positioning up, pick for your teammates, get lost in the confusion, all those things that a rogue can take advantage of. Now, if you do run creep in trios, you can play someone as like a scout. Possibly picking off one of the enemy teammates or hitting a flank makes all those things a little bit more viable. But typically in trios, while you can get lost in the chaos, then people sort of lose track of you, there's more people to look for you and more counters to invis as well. So let's see here. Right, so next up, I'm going to talk about my plan for wipes. I think hands down the most important thing for this next up-and-coming season, while the market is inactive. 2 weeks, 4 months, we won't know until they make an update for it. Heck, Iron Mace might not even know at this moment. They might be playing it by ear. I'd imagine that this change is probably there both because it's been requested by the community and because it will greatly impact the real-life money transactions that happen in this game. And cheaters. So, liquid gold is going to be the most important. And that does mean things like the gold piles and treasure rooms and that sort of stuff are going to be highly sought after. They're probably going to be pretty contested. Bosses are always very contested, but we used to farm troll pelts and sell coin bags in the beginning of a wipe, just because it was a high ticket item and fairly easy to get in normal and HR. Pretty comfortable on the troll, and fighting around the troll room is honestly just quite a lot of fun. However, for this wipe, I think you want a little bit more consistency. So the guild is going to be going down into the Inferno. We're going to be living in the Inferno in High Roller, hopefully. There's good loot down there, good items. There's high-grade gems that drop, that spawn on the floor, that spawn all over in different places. There is, of course, there's going to be a boss that you could potentially do, but even without being able to do the boss, just being able to safely extract, meaning that you're clearing on the outskirts of the circle. You're not looking for a fight, but you'll take them if they come to you. Just trying to build up the stocks, load the warehouse full of gold, full of high-grade gear, because those are things that tend to keep their value. Another thing to consider is that when the market does eventually come out, it's going to be flooded hard. So you're going to want to have liquid gold to be able to purchase items of value that are most likely going to go up in price. That's things like gold storage, boss keys. There's been the idea teased that some items will be bound to character. Let's see how it goes here. So most of the other floors in the Forgotten Castle don't really have great loot drops for a rogue. Of course, there's your standard gear that you get off of jewelry off of mummies. Zombies can drop leather, cloth for you. But a lot of monsters down in the Inferno drop daggers. And that's really what we need to be successful. We need a high-grade dagger. And I just tend to have better luck getting loot for the rogue class in the Inferno. Another huge part of this wipe is going to be playing with a team. Being able to bring your teammates' gear to get their power higher is going to be a way to also protect you and generate more success in the dungeon. So those things are all going to be pretty crucial. That's really it for all my plans for the wipe. We'll see what comes with the patch notes. Things may change, of course, right? There's going to be Otto and whatever that guy's name is. The guy who lets you extract your gear out. Highwayman, whatever, something like that. That guy's coming back, right? So we're going to be able to leave the dungeon with a little bit more loot. Again, this makes the 3-floor dungeon better. Frost Caves is going to be an interesting one. We'll see if they randomize it. Otherwise, the Frost Abyss typically also has pretty good loot. If the Inferno is really crowded, I could certainly see myself going over to the Frost Caves. However, it is a very big danger zone with how easily druids can move around that module. They can fly over walls there. A lot of people can play the doors a little bit easier than a rogue can there. Warlocks can clear out whole modules, multiple modules at a time, so it's a little bit of a dangerous place for a rogue to be. I feel like the Inferno, tight corridors, very dangerous mobs, a little bit better for a rogue. So we'll see what comes with the wipe. Everything might change, but either way, I think this is probably the most sound and consistent advice for the wipe, for you to be prepared. We'll be putting together an individual module Inferno guide. We're going to go over every module. This is where all the loot is. This is how to full clear it. This is my strategy for moving around this module. Some modules in the Inferno are better skipped depending on where the circle is, where you're at in your run, how much time you've got left on the clock, those sort of things. So some modules are easier to move through, some have higher loot, more chests, that sort of thing, or are easier to clear, so it's better to spend a little bit more time there, or they're better to fight in. So we'll be going over every specific module in the Inferno. Hopefully we get some new map modules. We're definitely going to get some new mobs. Looks like a lot of new mob animations have been added, so the game is going to be even more dangerous than ever before. Something else to consider, I think, is they mentioned something about named items only being able to drop from 225 and higher, which just means, I think, that the loot grade drops are going to be adjusted, right? So you're really going to have access to a lot more unique items, I think, if you're in 225s. Maybe not named, but that's fine. You don't necessarily need named to perform well in the game. I could see that if you're in 224s, Zero to Hero is going to be a big change to the game that the guild is most certainly going to enjoy. However, you're probably only going to be extracting from a 224 lobby with maybe 1 or 2 uniques. Maybe that chance will be higher in 225s. We'll have to see how it goes. That also means that there could be a higher chance of unique grade gems, and definitely building up a stock of your own gems is going to be very crucial for this one. However, they did tease a merchant, the cockatrice, that's going to be able to produce gems for you. It looks kind of like it's Pokemon style, so you're going to have to feed it something, and then in its nest, it's got some goodies for you. So that's it for the guild. Pretty excited about the wipe. It's been fun running named. Last little thing, if you do get your hands on a Death Bloom or a Viola, get that attack speed up. You need high attack speed with those weapons because they have on-hit procs. So the faster that you can get to the 3 hits on the Death Bloom, or the faster that you can get that first hit out on a Viola, it really changes the tone of the fight that you're in. I hope you guys had fun. And remember, join or die.